Hello mga mahal! Welcome back to my learning channel. This is One-Up Tutorials where you can level up your math skills with me, Miss B. So hello po! Nagbabalik po ang inyong resident math teacher na tutulungan kayo para mas maintindihan niyo po ang lessons niyo sa math. Yay! So as usual, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Like this video and then subscribe to my channel para po masaya. At para lagi kayong updated sa lahat ng aking newest videos, i-click nyo na rin yung mahiwagang bell button dyan katabi ng subscribe button. Okay? Okay. So, nasa na ba tayo? Tayo po ay nasa 4th quarter na at nasa 2nd week na po tayo. At ang pinag-uusapan natin ay ang measures of possession for grouped data. Last week po, pinag-aralan natin ay ungrouped data. Ngayon naman po, ang tatalakayin natin ay kung paano hanapin ang measures of possession with grouped data. So, ano po ang ating objectives? At the end of this lesson, the students are able to calculate for specific measures of possession given grouped data, and they will be able to solve problems involving measures of possession. Yan po ay in line sa ating MELCs. Kung ano po yung MELCs natin ngayon, yun din yung MELCs natin. Kung ano yung MELCs natin last week, yun din lang po ang MELCs natin this week. So, illustrates the measures of possession, calculate a specific measure of possession, and solves problems involving measures of possession. Okay. So, paano nga ba natin hanapin ang measures of possession for group data? Just a very quick recap. Last week, tinuro ko po ang for ungrouped data at kailangan po natin ng formula. Yung formula po ay madali lang namang i-memorize. Pero yun po ay para sa possession lamang. Now, we have two methods of solving for your quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. We have the M&S method and the linear interpolation method. So this time, paano naman kung may group data tayo? Good news is, isang method lang siya. The bad news is, medyo complicated yung process. Joke lang, madali lang naman siya. Matrabaho, pero madali. Okay? So, ito yung ating formula. No? Bago kayo magreklamo na parang, wow, ma'am, bakit ganun? Parang hirap naman yan. Madali lang intindihin yan. Okay? Mukha lang siyang complicated, pero it's actually not that complicated. So, what I want you to focus on is this part over here. Yan po yung tinatawag natin na possession. Ito yung formula natin for getting the possession, specifically for your quartiles, deciles, and percentiles. So, nagbabago lang yan ng konti. Kung quartile ang hinahanap natin, the denominator is 4. Kung decile, it's going to be 10. And if it's a percentile, it's going to be 100. Okay? Okay, so what are the elements of this formula? We're going to break it down. Okay? So the first one is, of course, your quartile. Kung pang ilang quartile yan. First quartile ba? Second or third? And then, LB stands for your lower boundary. Lower boundary po yan nung class. So, if you have already predicted it, gagawa po tayo ng frequency distribution table kasi grouped yung ating data. So, mamaya babalikan din natin yan. Si CFB, siya po yung cumulative frequency before the class. Kaya siya, sorry for the noise, kaya siya CFB. It's cumulative frequency before the class. And then, you have your FQK, which is the frequency of the class itself. And then, your I is your size of the class interval. Okay? So, now that we've broken that down, we are going to apply it using this example. So, this table represents the scores of 50 students from 10 Newton in their science test. So, meron po tayong classes. Ito po yung ating mga classes. Okay? Tapos, ito yung kanilang frequency. So, ang una nating hahanapin ay yung N at saka yung I. So, from here, syempre, given na yung problem, ilan yung students? 50. So, yan yung N natin. And then, your class interval, how many scores are there in each class? So, we're going to count. We have 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. So, ang class interval po natin ay 5. Okay? So, now that we have identified these things, we are now going to make your frequency distribution table. How are we going to do that? We're going to add 2 columns. 1 column for your lower boundary and 1 column for your cumulative frequency. Okay, so sana naaalala nyo pa to. Hindi kasi ako sure kung kung part ito ng naituro sa inyo before, but I'm pretty sure it is kasi it was already mentioned here. So, ibig sabihin nun, meron na kayong background information about these things. So, just to review, paano kuhanin ng lower boundary? Kuhanin nyo po yung lower boundary at saka upper boundary ng dalawang class. Kuhanin nyo lang yung nasa gitna niyan. So, ano ang nasa gitna ng 45 at 46? 45.5. And then, just do that for the rest. Or if you want, ima-minus nyo na lang yung class interval nyo na 5. So, magkikeep lang kayo ng minusing until you reach the last class. Now, for cumulative frequency, ang gagawin po natin is ina-add natin yung mga sumusunod na class. Ganun lang po siya. 6 plus, you start with 6. 6 plus 12 is 18. Tapos 18 plus 9, that's 27. 27 plus 11, that's 38. And so on and so forth. Na how will you know kung tama yung ginawa mo? If your n is equal to the topmost of your cumulative frequency, then tama yung ginawa mo. Kapag hindi siya nagma-match with your n, may mali ka sa pag-add. Okay? So, yun po. Now, how do we apply yung formula na kinuha natin kanina? So, first is we have to look for the position. So, paano natin hahanapin ang position ni Q1? Ito po yung ating formula. So, dahil first quartile lang hinahanap natin, our K is just 1. Okay? And then, our N is 50. So, essentially, we're looking for the 1/4 of 50. And that is 12.5. Now, paano nating mahahanap kung nasan yung 12.5 na score dito sa ating data? So, dito papasok yung ating cumulative frequency table. So, if you can see here, ang ibig po sabihin ng cumulative frequency is the first score up until the 6th score, andito ka sa first class. Susunod, ano yung pagkatapos ng 6, 7, di ba? So, the 7th score until the 18th score, yung nandito sa second class mo. And so on and so forth. So, nasan yung 12 natin? Nandito siya sa class na ito. Okay? So, balikan natin yung formula. Ano-ano yung mga kailangan natin? Number 1, kailangan natin ng nasaan na siya? Kailangan natin ng lower boundary ng cumulative frequency before ng frequency. And then, yung class interval, nakuha na natin yan. So, balikan natin. So, kailangan natin yung lower boundary of that class, yung frequency of that class, and then the cumulative frequency before. So, ito. Okay? So, tandaan natin yan kasi gagamitin natin sila sa formula. So, using this formula, ang lower boundary natin was 25.5. So, 25.5 plus yung position na nakuha natin was 12.5 minus the cumulative frequency before, ito po yan, si 6. Divided by the frequency itself of that class, which is 12. And then times our class interval na 5. Okay? So, syempre, gagamitan natin ito ng mahiwagang calculator. Saan yung calculator natin? Ayan. Okay, so, 25, 12.5 minus 6 divided by 12 times 5 plus 25.5. You have 28.208333. So, ang gagawin po natin, we need to round this off to 2 decimal places. So, it's 28.21. So, yan po ang score or value ng ating first quartile. Okay, this means that 25% of your data is less than or equal to 28.21 na score. Okay? So, ganyan lang siyang gawin. So, it might seem complicated, but it's actually not. Basta alam nyo kung ano ang inyong hinahanap. Now, let's look for Q3. So, again, una nating hahanapin is the position ni Q3. Anong position ni Q3? It's 3/4 of 50. And 3/4 of 50 is... 50 times 3 divided by 4, that's 37.5. Okay? So, nasaan kaya si 37.5? So, since it's very close to 38 and 38 is the limit for this class, ito yung class na hinahanap natin. Okay? So, balikan lang natin ano-ano yung kailangan natin. We need the class interval 5. We need the frequency of that class, the lower boundary of that class, and the cumulative frequency before. So, yung mas mababa. Okay? Now, using the formula, our Q3 is the lower boundary is 35.5 plus yung position na 37.5 minus cumulative frequency before, that's a 27, divided by the frequency itself, C11, and then our class interval of 5. Now, using our trusty calculator na hindi ko na ipapakita kasi baka mamaya mahilo kayo, 37.5 minus 27 divided by 11 times 5 plus 35.5. We will get 40.27. Okay? So this means 40.27 is your third quartile, or 75% of your data scores fall below 40.27. Okay? So, ganun lang siya. Madali lang. Now, paano yung pinagkaiba ng deciles at saka ng percentiles? Siyempre, magkakalculate din tayo ng decile at saka ng percentile, no? So, for the deciles, as you can see, it's exactly the same. Nagbago lang siya ng position. Okay? So, let's look for the 7th decile. Hanapin muna natin yung position ni 7th decile. So, that's 7 over 10 of 50. Ano po yan? That is 35. So, hahanapin ngayon natin yung 35th score. Nasaan kaya siya? It's going to be here. Okay? So, your 7th decile is going to be in this class. Ano-ano ulit yung kailangan natin? We need your class interval of 5. We need the frequency. We need the lower boundary and the cumulative frequency before. Okay? So, let's input all of this in our formula. We're looking for D7. So, lower boundary. Pareho lang nung kanina. 35.5 plus yung position natin is 35 minus cumulative frequency before is 27 divided by the frequency itself, which is 11, divided by 5. Or, multiply by 5. So, 35 minus 27 divided by 11 times 5 plus 35.5. You will get your D7 score is 39.14. Okay? So, this means that 70% of your data falls under the score 39.14. Now, for percentile, makikita nyo ulit, formula is exactly the same. Nagbago lang yung formula natin for position. So, if we're going to apply that, we're going to look for the 85th percentile. Let's look for the position again. So, puro ganun lang siya, mga anak. Paulit-ulit lang siya. Basta alam niyo yung formula for the position, tapos alam niyo rin yung formula for finding the percentile, quartile, and decile, then yakang-yakan nyo na to. Okay? Now, let's look for the 85th percentile of 50. So, that's 85 times 50 divided by 100. That is a 42.5. So, nasaan kaya ang 42.5? Nandito po siya sa class na ito. Okay? So, again, what do we need? We need our class interval 5, the frequency, the lower boundary, and the cumulative frequency before. Okay? So, syempre, kailangan natin yung position. So, let's start. 85th percentile, your lower boundary, plus the position, which is 42.5, minus cumulative frequency before of 38 divided by your frequency itself of 8 times class interval 5. Now, if we're going to calculate this, 42.5 minus 38 divided by 8 times 5 plus 40.5, sorry. Our 85th percentile score is found at 43.31. This means that 85% of your data scores or data values fall under 43.31. Okay? So, ganun lang siya mga anak. It's very easy. Now, paano naman kung meron tayong word problem? So, syempre, kailangan mag-discuss tayo ng at least isang word problem. So, here, si Kim So-hyun ay nabore. Marami siyang oras dahil siguro wala siyang taping. Char. So, marami siyang oras. Okay? He got bored while waiting at a cafe. And then he decided to count the or to observe the service time of the first 35 customers in his cafe or in a cafe. So, the following are his data. So, if you notice, you are given raw data. So, what are we going to do if you're given raw data? Of course, we're going to change your raw data into grouped data. So, how do we do that? First, i-identify muna natin yung mga kailangan nating hanapin. Si Q3, si D3, at saka si P65. So, you are given raw data. What do you do? First, identify your range or your highest value minus your lowest value. Bakit kailangan natin gawin to? Kasi kailangan natin makita kung gaano kalayo yung values ng highest value at ng lowest value. Kasi that would dictate your interval. If hindi naman ganun kalaki yung range mo, then you can opt for the usual 5 interval. Now, if medyo malaki yung ating range, then kailangan nating dagdagan yung class interval natin. Okay? So, I will do this for you para hindi na kayo maduling. Ang highest value po natin ay 60, ang lowest value natin ay 15. So, if we're going to subtract that, you will get a value of 45. 45 is actually a bit big. So, we will need to use an interval bigger than 5. So, I would suggest ang interval na gagawin natin ay 8. Okay? So, paano ba natin gagawin itong group data na ito? You will create your classes or your groups. Now, as you notice, hindi ako nag-start dun sa smallest value. Nag-start ako sa before that. So, I didn't start with 15. I started with 14. Okay? Now, you can also start with 15 naman. This is just a personal choice. But, when making your groups, you can actually start with the lowest. So, okay lang yan. So, paano natin ma-check kung tama itong intervals natin? Magbilang tayo. Ilan ang scores from 14 to 21? So, that's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Apat. Or apat, walo pala. Apat. There. So, walo. Okay? So, your class interval is 8. Now, after doing this, syempre, kailangan natin ng frequencies. So, you arrange your data from smallest to biggest. That will make it easier for you to count the frequencies. Okay? Let's start with the smallest class. 14 to 21. Nasaan yan? It's up until here. So, how many is that? That's 5. Your 22 to 29 scores, that's up until here. How many is that? That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Your 30 to 37, it's this entire row here. So, that's 7. 38 to 48, that's up until here. It's another entire row. So, that's another 7. Oh, sorry, it's up until 45 lang pala. So, babawasan natin siya. Hanggang 45 lang siya. So, it's until here. So, 5 lang. And then, see, 46 up until 53. That's up until here. So, that's 4, 5, 6. And then, the rest for the last class. Now, how will you know if tama yung ginawa nyo? You will try to add everything up. And if they add up to your N, then you are correct. Remember, binanggit kanina that there were 35 customers in the problem. So this adds up to 35. Therefore, you got it right. Okay? Alright. Next. Ano nang susunod natin? Syempre, gagawa na po tayo ng frequency distribution table. So, magdadagdag tayo ng 2 pang columns for your lower boundaries and for your cumulative frequency. Okay? So, now to expedite the process, I will just isusolve ko ba lahat? Pero sige, isusolve ko na lahat para naman hindi nyo sabihin na minamadali ko kayo. Okay? So, I will solve for all of the things na kailangan natin. Balikan lang natin yung problem. We are looking for Q3, D3, and P65. So, Q3, D3, at saka P65. So, syempre, hahanapin muna natin ng positions for this. So, our N is 35. Our I is 8. Okay? So, 3/4 of 35. That will give you 26.25. I'm just gonna move this one because there's no space. 26.25. Okay? Your D3, that's 3/10 of 35. So 35 times 3, that's 10.5. And then, of course, you have your P65, or your 65th percentile. That's 65 over 100 times 35. So 35 times 65, that's 22.75. So now that you have your positions, let's try to plot them in our table, or our frequency distribution table. I'm going to use green for Q3. Q3 is 26.25. Now, this is interesting kasi 26.25 ito. Pero, nasa cumulative frequency natin, 26 siya. Okay? Yun yung limit ng class. So, ano gagawin natin? Pupunta pa tayo sa class na ito or dun tayo sa upper class? Okay? So, you have to go back to your position. Saan siya mas malapit na integer? Si 26.25 ba ay mas malapit sa 26 or sa 27? Now, dahil mas malapit siya sa 26, we will take 26. So, this is the class that we are looking for. Okay? Ito yon. So, nandito si Q3. Nandito sa class na to. So, I'm gonna use blue naman for D3. D3 daw ay 10.5. Si 10.5 ay nandito. And then, last but not the least, I'm going to use red, si P65, 22.75. So, it's actually found on the same class as Q3, which is okay lang. Wala naman nagbabawal sa kanya. Okay? Ganun talaga, minsan nag-aabot sila sa isang class. So, now that we know our positions and we know the rest of our data, we will try to solve for each of them. Okay? So, unahin muna natin si green, si Q3. Ano-ano yung kailangan natin? Lower boundary, frequency, cumulative frequency before. So, these are the things that we need. Alright? So, let's solve. Q3 is 37.5. That's your lower boundary. Plus the position that we got, that's 26.25, minus cumulative frequency before is 21, divided by the frequency itself is 5, and then multiply by our class interval, which is 8. So, ang Q3 po natin ay 26.25 minus 21 divided by 5 times 8 plus 37.5. You have a 45.9. This is your third quartile score. Okay? Now, balikan natin. For decile 3 naman, I used blue. So, for decile 3, we need the frequency of that class, the lower boundary of that class, the previous class's cumulative frequency. Okay? So we're gonna start with the lower boundary, which is 21.5. D3, 21.5 plus yung ating 10.5 minus cumulative frequency before, that's a 5. 8 yung ating class interval. Yung frequency natin ay 9. So, using our trusty calculator, we are going to find that this is equal to 26.39. Yan yung ating third decile. And then, of course, last but not the least, we need to look for P65. So, for P65, halos pareho lang siya with Q3. Tama, pareho yung lower boundary, pareho yung frequency, pareho yung cumulative frequency. Ang magbabago lang po dyan is yung value ng position, which is at 22.75. Now, I have a trick for that. We're going to take this, and we're going, oh wait, no, wrong one, this one. We're going to take this, and we're going to paste it. Ba-doom. So, there we go. Oh, hindi siya pwedeng i-erase. Wait lang, balik tayo. Dito tayo sa draw. I'm gonna try and erase this part over here. There you go. Ayan, kasi may papalitan lang tayo. Okay, we're back in business. So we're looking for the 65th percentile. So remember, the position that we got for P65 is 22.75. So we're going to put that here, 22.75. So lower boundary is the same, and then you have your previous cumulative frequency divided by your frequency times your class interval. So, syempre, mag-iiba na rin yung sagot natin. I'm gonna erase this. What will now be our P65? So, 22.75 minus 21 divided by 5 times 8 plus... Oh, that's too big. Why? Minus 21 divided by 5 times 8 plus 37.5. There we go. 40.3. So, yan lang po. So, ganun lang maghanap ng percentiles, deciles, and quartiles for grouped data. If you encounter a word problem, now at least you know kung paano nang gumawa ng frequency distribution table from scratch. But most of the time, mga anak, don't worry. You will already be given the table. You just have to complete it. Okay? And you must know how to interpret your data. So, balikan nyo yung definition natin ng percentiles, ng deciles, at saka ng quartiles. Okay? So, I hope you learned a lot from this. Maraming salamat po for watching this video. And again, please like and subscribe. Paalam!